There are hundreds of ways to make a pizza, but which style is truly the best? We asked you to vote, and after thousands of votes, I'm trying and ranking the top 15 pizza styles from around the world, from Neapolitan to New Haven, all judged by their unique preparation and technique. I'll be rating every pizza on flavor and texture, and at the end, I'll name my favorite style in the world. We've once again enlisted the human encyclopedia of pizza, Scott Wiener of Scott's Pizza Tours, who will guide us around the world, starting with a style I've never even heard of before: Argentinian Fugazzetta.
So we're at a place in Long Island City, Queens called BB's, which doesn't make this style, but sometimes they host pop-ups with this guy, OG Papa Fernando himself, who makes this very specific Argentinian style pizza called a Fugazzetta, which is dough, cheese, ton of onions, chimichurri, and then garnished on the end with olives. At every stop, we're sticking with cheese pizza, unless toppings are essential to the style, like the way they are here. If you had this without the onion and the chimichurri and the olive, it's not the style at all.
Actually phenomenal. This is completely different than I think any of the pizzas we're gonna have today, by far.
The closest comparison of what we'll have today will be the Chicago deep dish.
If I'm gonna compare this to Chicago deep dish, I'm gonna say right away this is way better. Normally I don't like super cheesy pies, but it's the addition of all these onions to help kind of like diffuse the cheese, because now you have texture that's beating out what would have been too much cheese. The charred onions are almost like a fried onion in the sense of like there's no crunch, it's more of like this crispy French fry texture, and then the raw onion provides like a raw vegetable crunch that I think gives it structure, but it also is giving you sweetness, it's giving you that sort of raw onion flavor, like you're eating like a nice cheesy sandwich in a way. Then on the back, you have this almost like focaccia-like chew from the dough itself, and a little bit of crunch on the bottom with the crust.
I'm with you on the onion. I think without the onion, I might even dislike this.
Now, flavor, it's just not overly rich. If you manage to get one of these olives in a bite, I think that's the complete experience. 20% crust, 80% cheese, and then there's this random pop of briny, salty, Kalamata olive deliciousness that enrobes that whole experience, cuts the richness, and creates a perfect bite. And then there's also that little sprinkling of the chimichurri, which to be honest is very subtle. As a dish, I think it's delicious. As a pizza, it's almost right on the edge of not being a pizza.
For this pizza style, I'll give a solid 8 for texture and another 8 for flavor.
If you've never had Argentinian pizza, it's worth adding to the list. Moving on.
Fugazzetta, a surprising 16 out of 20, strong. On to our next contender, Detroit style.
We are at Ace's Pizza.
I like this place a lot. It's a place that does this style kind of like right down the center. In my mind, this is the most typical Detroit style pizza in New York City.
I've had the original Detroit style pizza at Buddy's in Detroit. I don't think Buddy's is really that special. Not once have I gone to Buddy's and felt like it was an anomaly in comparison to the rest. So we're at Ace's to at least have it in this video with a new experience. Good crust on the bottom, crunchy on the outside. You got the mouth destroyer crust.
And you gotta go with the corners. I mean, the caramelized cheese on the edge. It's what separates Detroit style from just standard Sicilian. Not only do I love this, but this reminds me that I love pizza. It just like does all the things that beautiful pizza does. It's not overthought, and I love fancy overthought pizza, but it's so comfortable, and I think sometimes the best pizza is the one that's comfortable, not the one that you have to put on a fancy dress to go and eat.
I agree with that. It's like not trying to be something that it's not. The tomato sauce isn't overly sweet. It's got some acidity to it, which I love. A little bit of oregano, perfuming the top of it. The cheese on there is mellow but salty, and it's not a stinky cheese. It's like a classic milky cheese almost. I do like this dough much more than Buddy's. It's not relying so much on the cheese crust. I can enjoy the center of this. I can enjoy working my way towards this crunchy bit in the back. Whereas with Buddy's, I felt like that was the only highlight. It was very heavy. This is much lighter. I could eat this whole pizza.
A solid 8 for texture, light, airy, crisp, and I'd give it a flat 7 for flavor. Tasty, but a little too heavy on the dried spices for me. Better than Buddy's, but no top ranking for Detroit style. And now after a lot of complaints in our last big pizza video crying out for New Haven pizza, well, we heard you. And we're going directly to the source to find the very best version of that pizza and enter it into the competition. Now, to show us the best of the best, we are temporarily parting with Scott for a New Haven legend, Colin Kaplan of Taste of New Haven Food Tours, who bleeds New Haven pizza. And he's starting us off with a true legend.
This is a signature Frank Pepe white clam pizza. The white clam pie was invented by Frank Pepe. He's the oldest, longest running pizzeria in Connecticut and one of the oldest in America. This is what New Haven's known for. Fresh clams, garlic, olive oil, pecorino romano, little oregano on top. Basically, what New Haven style is the original pizza. It's the kind of pizza when the immigrants came over 100 years ago. What they used to make in Boston, New York, Chicago, and every other city that was a pizza city, they made what is now called New Haven style.
To me, this is like calling me because of the char and the crisp, but like you tell me.
When I go for a pie, I want what New Haven is known for, which is the char. I want it to have that kind of dark, delicious crust that says it's been cooked great.
It almost stands up holding it. That is very nice. I don't have a preconceived notion of what New Haven pizza should be. This pizza is very focused on the quality of the dough. Because there's not a ton of sauce, there's not a ton of toppings, but there is a lot of really nice, almost flatbread-like pizza. Inside, it's like thin, but there's a little bit of fluff, but then that bottom is so ridiculously crisp, almost like a thin little crispy cracker. You get the chew from the toppings, you get the chew from the dough. It's got a little bit of stretch, and then it just melts with the crunch. I mean, like, you can hear that, and it's loud as in here. And then flavor, it's very mellow. By keeping the flavor simple, you're not ending up with a bunch of different random tastes like, oh, garlic here, tomato here. Not heavy too. You can eat this and walk away feeling really good.
That's our whole goal in New Haven, is to eat as much pizza as possible.
A lot of people told me mixed things, either to skip New Haven or to go to New Haven. There was no in between, and I'm kind of glad we're here.
Now, I was about to give my rating, and then the manager came out of nowhere and asked me to sign a special 100th anniversary Frank Pepe's Pizza Peel.
Right next to the man himself. 100 years is crazy.
And then he gifted me an apron, to which I was like, wait, pause. Because he insisted I go to the kitchen and go straight to work. Listen, tossing these pizzas with this long of a pizza peel, not something I have experience with, but I'll give it a shot. And, well, okay, that didn't go very well, now did it?
All right, we're gonna give that another try.
But you fall down once, you get up twice. I tried again, and it came out great.
Whoa, I really like that. Holy shit. It's perfect in every way. You get to enjoy the cheese and the sauce without it distracting you from the dough at all. You can enjoy it for what the product truly is. I don't know who's gonna top this, dude. You guys are screwed. Okay, I had two pizzas. I'm gonna rate the one that I liked more, which is the tomato. I like the clam, but frankly, the tomato, I would desire that pizza more than I would the clam. That's just my own personal preference. Texture, clearly it's all about the bread. I'll give it an 8.9. The flavor, unbelievable. It's not complicated. It's just purely what it's supposed to be. That fresh tomato flavor, a little bit of sweetness, olive oil, pecorino, really nice and salty. So I'd give it a solid 8 on flavor. I just wanna be clear, that's high. That's very high for me. Moving on. Frank Pepe's Tomato Pie steals the spotlight from their clam pie with a 16.9. That's already an extremely high rating for me, but is it enough for New Haven to win the entirety of the competition? Let's see what our next New Haven spot, Sally's A Beats, has to say about that.
The A in front of pizza is how we pronounce it, not a pizza, a beats. They're known for their tomato pie. Tomato sauce, a little less pecorino romano than we've seen.
I hardly see it. It's almost like invisible. It's very fragrant, despite how simple it looks. Super garlicky, I smell it. Cheers.
Cheers.
Wow, this is totally different. Towards the center, way more thin, crisp, but also like almost melt in your mouth crunch. There's not as much chew in this dough, which I like. The crust is like a wispy crispness.
It's almost like crystallic in its way it dissolves.
Really nice, and then it gets chewier as you get towards the back. And also the sauce on this, it's a little sweeter, but also that's bringing out some more of the tomato flavor that I like. The pecorino also being lighter is bringing out more of that tomato flavor too. So this is a very like fresh pie. I like this, this is nice.
This pizza was actually originated by Frank Pepe's nephew, Salvatore Sally Consiglio. Technique-wise, it's just about the same exact technique as Pepe's does. Same kind of dough formation. The oven is coal-fired. So there's this whole family connection here. It's kind of crazy.
I mean, if you think about it though, out of all the pizzas we're gonna taste today, many of them have almost the exact same ingredients. Most of them will have flour, water, yeast, salt, tomatoes, and garlic, and olive oil. Yet they're all wildly different. So what's really the difference between this and the other place is like minutia and technique is what changes the product. When you're working with something so simple, any change in the process will change the product.
A lot of people think that New Haven style has to be coal-fired. The next place we're gonna go to, it's actually oil-fired.
Oh, that's sick. V8 bi-turbo diesel engine, let's go.
It's not gasoline, but it's oil. Like home heating oil, it's different, you'll see.
So for Sally's, the texture here was better than Pepe's, in my opinion. It felt more delicate, it felt more melt in your mouth.
Flavor, I'm going an 8.5. So simple, but so good. And texture, a whopping, walloping 8.9. Obviously all technique. These boys ain't playing.
Really solid work, moving on.
Sally's Tomato Pie unseats Frank Pepe's version with a very strong 17.4. But our final New Haven stop is Modern A Beats. Here's the thing, these guys are doing a little differently by not using coal. So the question is, can that beat the other two and can it win the overall competition?
Modern is so well known for their mozzarella pie. This is kind of our signature pie that we're gonna get here.
Immediately I noticed this one is far more charred. It's obviously getting hit at a much higher temperature just because even the cheese is getting a little bit of char. The cheese has almost like been hit so aggressively, there's almost like a brown butter scent to it. And yet also just evenly melted in some of the center parts. Listen, that's kind of hot. Cheers. Wow.
One of the features of New Haven pizza is that it's cooked well done, but the structure of the bread is still there. It hasn't been squeezed out. The rolling pin is shunned, so it's really all about hand movements. So you get a little bit of that stretch where it pulls on this crust, but you're not getting a cracker. You're really getting still a bread.
I will say, I do love the texture of this, possibly the most. It's super crispy, just like all the other ones, but it has a little bit of that airy breadiness, and that I like, and I'm guessing that has something to do with the modern aspect of it, right? Like the texture's a little bit less cracker and a little bit more like puffy and like chewy.
Bill Pustari and his family have run Modern for 37 years. One of the big changes changes he made was adding a sourdough, taking away the baker's yeast and having a 150-year-old sourdough come into the play, pulling from that on every batch. Also, Modern has a very different oven. They converted it to home heating oil in the late 60s, and they changed a big square oven to a round domed oven. It's getting hotter because the heat's going up and smack down on top of the pizza.
You're getting little bits and little pops of crunch on the top of this that you're not gonna get anywhere else. The crispness on the underside, pretty similar to a few of the other places, but like you said, you have that layer of bread. There's like a little bit of chewiness to it, like a nice flatbread. It's not just a cracker crunch, it's a cracker crunch followed by a nice chew, a stretch in a way. And it's a little aerated too, surprisingly. Flavor, it feels a little bit more relaxed, although it's more rich. You know, you've got all the cheese and oil. I did prefer the flavor of the Sally's one, just a little marginally more for my own personal preference. The flavor of the dough though, on the other hand, like I wish there was a bit more salt. Sauce is a little saltier, cheese is a little saltier, so that kind of helps balance that out.
Time to score. Texture, 8.7. Flavor, a flat 8.
I will say, typically anything that's undersalted to me will get under a 6. So the fact that this is getting an 8 says a lot about the sauce, the quality of the crust, and I think the cheese and everything that they've done on here is the flavors are just very nice. New Haven, hats off, very good. I told myself I would never come here. I was like, it's the same. It's not often I admit that I'm wrong, but I will admit it if it's true. And I gotta be honest, I was wrong. And I think it is a valuable contender in this, and it's gonna be a stiff competition to beat. Let's move on.
In the Battle of New Haven, Sally's Tomato Pie emerges victorious, beating Frank Pepe, Modern to beats, and moving on to first place in the overall competition. New Haven, it's looking good, but that may not be for long because we're going back to New York City for a Roman specialty.
We're in the Clinton Hill section of Brooklyn. This place is called Impasto. This is Roman pizza al taglio. In Rome, this is the one that every day on the street, grab a slice for lunch, grab a slice as a snack. Kind of the way that we treat pizza in New York City is the same as this. Luca, the owner, is from Rome, and he's brought this style of pizza to New York. We're matching what we're doing at the other places, so for that, here, it's a pizza margherita. Fresh mozzarella, crushed tomato, basil. For my money, this is the best version of it. It matches what you'd have in Rome.
That's a big claim. I've had this style of pizza before, so I'm wondering where this is gonna stand up. And we've got these little slices. They look lovely. They're light.
So light.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna finish this.
It's not a lot of pizza. Like, we just cut one slice in half. For the amount of dough, so much of it is water, and that water's cooked off, so it leaves behind so much lightness. Every flavor in it is clear. It's just tomato and salt, so simple. Some pizza is made with intention. This is a very intentional pizza.
I needed this, man. This reminded me that New Haven's not all that.
I'm gonna get in trouble, I'm next to you.
Texture. It's got quite literally everything I want in a pizza, in the sense of the bottom is like beautifully crackly, crunchy, like a crisp cracker. Wispy, crispy, thin, wafer-like crunch immediately melts in your mouth, and then above that is this gorgeous, moist, pillowy, soft, airy dough on top of that with a little bit of chew, but not too much. You're not like working your jaw. The flavors are fresh, the tomatoes are fresh. You can really taste that tomato. There's no like throwing sugar and tons of garlic. Like, you taste that light, natural sweetness, a little bit of tartness, and then of course there's that cheese there for a little tinge of saltiness. I should also mention that there's salt in the dough, and it is salted wonderfully. No more, no less. I want it exactly like that. This is a wonderful pizza.
I'm kind of in shock right now. Texture 9.1? What? Whoa, brother. And flavor a massive, even 9. Good God. With ratings like that, it's gonna take truly the best pizza to win this competition. And as quickly as New Haven takes first place, it gives it up to Roman Taglio with an 18.1. But our next pizza style, everyone better watch out. It's probably one of the best pizzas ever if I was clinically insane. Pizza Hut.
This is Scott's most favorite pizza in the entire world. We have a Pizza Hut stuffed crust pizza. Now you might be wondering, why is this in this competition? This doesn't make any sense. Unfortunately, you voted for it. I'm disappointed. I'm a man of my word, and we will try the pizza that you voted for. So here we go, looking good already. See, most pizzas, you actually really want this sort of gravitational pull to the earth. If you were on the moon, it would do this too.
If you want to find the core of the earth, pick up one of these slices. It's that way.
I guess I'll give it a little crack in the back. Oh wait, you know what? Okay, actually Scott, the first thing you're gonna notice is kind of like what's left over in the baby's diaper. I'm kidding. The crust wasn't that bad. On the edge, there was a little bit of crisp, almost like an assumption of it, which was immediately lost in the plasticky Play-Doh center. Sauce was not present. Saltiness was okay. I'm getting salty cheese and just about nothing else. Honestly, I think I'd be better off with a mozzarella stick from the refrigerator, cold.
But you're thinking about this as someone who's analyzing food. You gotta put yourself in the mindset of somebody who needs comfort in the form of as much cheese as possible.
You gotta be really f***ing hurting if that's the Band-Aid you need.
What about the concept of stuffing a crust with cheese? Do you respect that?
Yeah, I could be into it.
This just fails because the concept is good, but the execution is not as good as you want.
Pretty much. What has happened here is whatever cheese they use plus the dough has become an amalgamation of a paste. It has no cheese pull, it has no texture. It really just feels like undercooked dough in the center, even though it's not. And I don't like that at all. These pizzas have gotten expensive. I feel like you're better off going somewhere else and putting the same money you would put towards this pizza towards like a local joint that might be giving a little bit more attention. Texture for the crust, it's not bad, like a 6. Everything else, a 1 or a 2. So I'll equalize that at a solid 3. And then And flavor, I think a 2.5. Look for other stuffed crust pizzas from potentially a local purveyor, and you will probably have a better experience. So let's move on.
You know, Pizza Hut doesn't even deserve to be on the leaderboard in my opinion, but now we get to see what a quote-unquote legit stuffed pizza is all about.
So we're at La Villa in Park Slope, Brooklyn. We're gonna have their stuffed pizza, which is essentially their Sicilian dough in the rectangular pan, folded over the ingredients, which for this is mozzarella, potato, pepperoni, onion.
Again, this isn't just a cheese-only pizza like Fugazetta. This style really wouldn't be what it is without all the fillings inside, okay? So just gotta go in knowing that.
There's stuffed pizzas in New York for decades, and the one that I always remember seeing was the stuffed pizzas at Sbarro.
It looks more like a sandwich than it does a pizza. I'm a little confused.
It'll eat like a sandwich.
Okay. Wow. It's like the second I got out of New Haven, I realized that there's a lot better pizza out there.
To me, it's a different experience than eating standard pizzas because pizza I think of as always being open faced. But you still have stuffed pizzas in Chicago. You've got one from Argentina that has the two doughs.
I love this. And there's no sauce on it.
The thing that replaces the texture of that sauce is how creamy this potato is.
Yes.
It's not mashed up, but it's steamed so intensely. And I think there's lemon juice in there.
This is special. It's totally different than anything else we had.
Now, how do you feel about sliced pepperoni inside? This is using the pepperoni almost more as a deli meat.
You just get a different product. It's not necessarily better or worse. What's gonna happen, sort of pepperoni, fat, and oil spread out in between the sandwich. When you bite it, it's juicy and tender instead of crispy and chewy, which I kind of like. It's a different experience, right? Flavor is lovely. My first thought was there's no sauce in here. I feel like I'm gonna miss that. I'm not missing it at all. Like this all makes sense without the sauce. A little bit of that sort of like starchy potato flavor, and then of course the nice salty cheese and this crunchy, lovely dough. Texturally, it's incredible. I mean, if you've never had this before and you're in New York City, I really think you gotta try this. I would give this probably an 8.8 texture, and flavor, I would say an 8.8 also.
I keep telling myself I'm not gonna have any more, but I'm lying to myself.
Unbelievable introduction, a great competitor in the game. It's a top contender. Moving on.
Picture this. You're at the lowest part of Manhattan, Battery Park City, in what is probably the southernmost pizzeria on Manhattan, in Atesso. And they have this incredible Grandma's Pizza. You're familiar?
No.
Grandma's Pizza is the dough is pushed right into the pan, not allowed to rise in the pan, immediately topped and baked, thin, dense, crispy, crunchy.
I like the lines of sauce in between the cheese.
Grandma Pizza has become a lot more popular in recent years, but it's an old style. It's the style of pizza made in the home in the days before everyone had a pizza stone. It's like a thinner alternative to the Sicilian pizza. The beauty of this pizza is it's simple. More herbal sauce than we had before. There's garlic involved.
It has a very tender crumb. It's not chewy at all. If you put the same sauce on a Detroit style pizza, it would kind of belong there in my opinion. Instead of it being like puffy and crispy, it's thin and crispy. You've got a salty mozzarella, a very oregano rich sauce, which you guys know I'm not honestly the biggest fan of if I'm being totally transparent. And then obviously there's like texture of the dough, which is super soft. And by that I mean like you've got the crunch, but then it immediately melts. There's not a ton of chew, there's not a ton of pull to the dough. You bite straight through it. You know, all things considered, the pizza was good. It just wasn't like mind-boggling, you know? Very basic flavor.
Texture, I'll give a 6, slightly above average, and a flavor, another 6, also slightly above average.
That's how I felt about it, you know? No disrespect to the grandma pie. I would be fine if I was sitting at home and that's what my grandma gave me. I'd be pumped. So moving on.
Next up, Emmett's, to try 2 of Chicago's most famous pizza styles. Now, we've been to the famous Chicago places, we've had the famous Chicago pizza, so I'll make sure to think of those when I rate this.
Emmett's is a rare pizzeria of New York City because it is a Chicago-style pizza shop. Emmett Burke founded the place. He's from Chicago. He wanted to bring his pizza to New York City, and as it turns out, New York has embraced it. Not only do they do the more commonly understood deep dish pizza of Chicago, but they also do the more commonly eaten thin crust tavern style.
Let's start with this while it's hot. I'm gonna be on record to say this is much better than Illuminati's. I'm like suffocating right now.
What is it that this version of deep dish and the ones you had in Chicago have in common?
The commonality obviously is the fact that the sauce is on top and it's more of like a pie than it is just a simple pizza, right? Like it's got a pie vibe mentality to it. Sauce is way better on this. It's not like a sugar ketchup sauce. It's like a nice quality tomato sauce. There's not too much cheese on this and the crust is nice. It's not too rich and oily.
But a completely different crust than everything else we've had today.
Yeah, there's also that feeling of the teeth going through the pizza. Most pizza, it's like chewy cheese and then you get to that soft sauce and then the chewy dough. This is like your teeth are going through this hot sauce, which I think creates a different flavor experience, right? Because then you get the sauce before you get the cheese.
Tomato has way more flavor than mozzarella, and so I like the feature of deep dish pizza. People get really lost in thinking about that it's thick, but then when you look at the profile of it, it's not a thick bread.
Deep dish gets a 7 for flavor and a 6.9 on texture, but I'm told that's not even the pizza that Chicagoans love. It's actually this next one.
Now, let's talk about this thin crust tavern style, the polar opposite. I want to eat it right away while it's still fresh. This is way more of an everyday pizza. Super duper light. In comparison to that grandma pie we had, this is much more what I would have preferred. It's crunchy on the bottom, it's chewy on the top, not a lot of sauce, it's cheesy.
It's also so fun to eat. A round pie cut into squares at first gave me issues, but then I got into the idea that, well, wait a second, now I can just pop. It's just super fun to eat.
I like how subtle and simple this is, and yet you want to keep going back for another bite. After one slice this, I'm like, dude, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I can handle another slice. But this one, like you said, it like makes you want to go back for another little one.
It's like potato chips.
Yes. My favorite thing about this pizza is the fact that every bite is different. This is the most fun pizza on the list by far.
Chicago Tavern Style, 7.2 on both texture and flavor. Rightfully so, better than deep dish.
You know, in the age of overthinking pizza and making videos about going to too many pizzerias and saying all kinds of nonsense about them. I was talking about somebody else.
Oh, okay.
It's great to have a pizza that kind of washes all that out of your mind and reminds you that eating pizza is fun.
That was a beautiful statement. Moving on.
Now, I appreciate Emmett's, the only Chicago pizza in New York City, and I appreciate Chicago. Let's be real, two amazing food cities. I just don't love Chicago's take on pizza, I'm sorry. I'd go there for Italian beef, shout out Mr. Beef, just not pizza. But now we return to New York City's legend, Scar's Pizza, one of my all-time favorites for a big boy slice, where we'll try three styles, New York Sicilian, and the classic American pan pizza.
I know you've had Scars before, and I know you like Scars, but last time we did the video when you picked best pizza in New York, you picked Lindustry. That was not typical New York style pizza. This is a classic New York slice, so that's why we're highlighting the slice at Scars.
New York slice, it's big, first of all.
Yeah, this is a 22-inch diameter pie.
Huge, good lord.
Just like a really great rendition of the New York slice.
It's phenomenal. Every time I come here, I'm always reminded, damn, Scars is f***ing good.
Is this a style of pizza that you tend to prefer personally?
I would say so, yeah, but like only in the right context. It's a gigantic slice of pizza that you just get one and call it a day. You can eat it on the street, you can walk around, oily cheese fat, the crispy cheese on top, that crunchy crust on the bottom. It's ultra, ultra thin, and it's also uncomplicated. It's just cheese, sauce, and maybe a little bit of oregano, and that's it. It's a pizza you can fold, which I feel like every time I see someone fold a pizza, I think New York City, I don't know why.
It's casual. This is like the food that makes sense to a city.
The texture doesn't get much better than this. It's a 9. The flavor, I'd say, is an 8.8. It's a very simple flavor. They're not reinventing the wheel, they're just doing it well.
The New York slice almost takes the lead, but lands in second place behind Roman al Taglio. Maybe the crisp, airy Sicilian can elevate New York City.
Sicilian pizza, squares. Dough in the pan, allowed to proof in the pan to get puffy and fluffy, unlike the grandma pie, and then topped and baked, which is why you pick it up and it's thick, but should be light.
Let's go into it.
This is a good Sicilian, a great Sicilian. Bad Sicilians are the ones that are dense. They're just thick.
I think Scars also does the American Sicilian the best here. I love this pizza. I've had it before, and this reminds me why this is delicious. It's not the toppings, it's this unbelievable bread that's underneath it. You could eat this bread by itself and absolutely love every millisecond of it. Earth-shatteringly crispy. The inside's super duper aerated. So airy that when you bite it, it almost like breathes a little bit of salty, yeasty pizza air into your mouth, and it tastes good.
Almost positive that the Sicilian is par-baked. Before they top the dough, they bake it halfway so that they can finish off the bread before the toppings weigh it down.
This is a fucking phenomenal texture. I love this. 9.3. I care more about the bread than I do the flavor of this pizza, and so I would give it an 8.2 for flavor. I highly, highly recommend for people to come here and try this.
The New York City Sicilian just misses the top 3, sliding in just above New Haven. But let's be honest, we got one more left, which means they have one more shot.
The cheese goes all the way to the edge, so you're gonna get caramelized cheese. The sauce is on top of the cheese. The pan pizza is not baked with a par bake. That means that the toppings are weighing down the dough when they go from raw to cooked. Completely different pizza. More dense. It doesn't have that air, but this to me feels cozy.
Yeah, I'm really getting every little flavor in this. Like the fragrance of the oregano is super apparent. I'm tasting the olive oil in it. I'm getting that nice tomato flavor in there. And even the cheese, that salty, chewy cheese is like very, very present. I'm getting every little minuscule microscopic flavor compound that's in this bite. Flavor on this one, it's an 8.9. The inside's more dense. It's more of like a chewy pizza. It's not as in your face from a textural standpoint as this Sicilian is. Texture, I would say a solid 8. Pan style, American Sicilian, and New York style have all found their place on the leaderboard, but we have more to find, so let's move on.
We move on to Ruby Rosa, New York City's top thin crust pizza. This is a tight competition with only 3 styles to go from 3 of the most legendary places of all time. So this is gonna get a little interesting.
Super thin crust, cubes of mozzarella, California tomatoes on top.
I'm ready to eat.
This style completely different from Scar's, which is flexible, and this is snappy, thin, brittle.
Thin crust visually can sometimes look unsubstantial. It's literally thinner than the peel that it's on. The flavor and the texture in this is much more loud and pronounced than the Chicago deep dish we had. It says a lot about the quality of this pie and the flavors behind it. I love the tomato forward flavor. It's tart, seasoned nicely, fragrant, and it is just straight up tomato. I'm not being masked by the cheese, not being masked by the dough. I'm getting that beautiful fresh tomato flavor that's just slightly cooked in the oven. Saltiness from the cheese, not oily at all. The crust is super crunchy, like a nice thick cracker.
If my thin crust is floppy and chewy, it's not thin crust pizza. You know, it feels like it could be a dressed up pizza in a place like this where we're sitting down and there's flowers and wine glasses on the table, or it could be a by the slice on a paper plate. I like the versatility.
Flavor, easy, 8.8. It's not too much, it's not too little. It's very nice. Texture, I would give it also an 8.9, honestly. Like, I think out of all the crunchy thin crust, this is by far my most favorite. Way over the tavern style. This is the top dog. All that said, we're not done yet. Moving on.
Ruby Rosa's thin crust moves into the top 3 behind New York City Slice and Roman al Taglio, but now one of New York City's most famous styles at one of the most historic spots, possibly in the United States of America.
We are having classic coal-fired pizza at John's of Bleecker Street in Greenwich Village. So it's a coal-fired oven, not wood, not gas, anthracite coal.
Not gas, but I know I'm gonna have gas. Let's go. So good. It's a completely different and unique experience. Kind of hits all the notes you want from pizza without it being pretentious or fancy. It's just like a wonderfully thin crusted pizza. This is like a chewy crunch. You get a little crisp and then you kind of got to pull. And then you're chewing and it's like crunchy and it's chewy at the same time. Not super aerated and I don't mind it at all.
And there's so many elements about it you don't detect as you eat it. The sauce is on top of the cheese. So this way the cheese adheres to the dough. Most coal-fired pizza, if they're using fresh mozzarella, it's sliced. These guys use low moisture, which is also sliced. So it's not shreds of cheese that break up really quickly. There's more cohesion among the cheese, so this way when you take a bite, you get some nice extraction.
It's gooey, it's ooey, and it's a little chewy. I like it.
You had coal-fired pizza at Pepe's and Sally's in New Haven. This is New York coal-fired pizza, which are round, cut into equal triangles, have more flexibility. They're not as dense and crisp and crunchy as New Haven.
I think this is slightly better. I also think this dough is seasoned phenomenally.
I love the pizza in New Haven, but the crust is salted lower than this.
Texture, I'm gonna give a solid 8.4. Random number, I know you're thinking.
I really don't care.
We should just end the video there. Flavor of this pizza is substantial, it's powerful, it's strong, it's salted nicely. All the little flavors that are in here are popping the way I want them to pop. I'm gonna give this a 9. Absolutely delicious. If you've never had it before, it's obviously something to add to the list, but we gotta move on.
Take it all in, Roman al Taglio, our current leader, is still 18.1. Can anyone unseat and upset that victory? We got one more left. The biggest contender of them all, Neapolitan style. This is quite literally the crown jewel, the original pizza, but can it steal the throne?
We're at Una Pizza Napolitana in the Lower East Side. This place has all the accolades you could ever expect. It's been named #1 pizzeria in the world 2 years running now by Top 50 Pizza, the prime place if you want Neapolitan pizza. This style is not just an Italian pizza, it is the original pizza of Southern Italy. It's the hottest oven, fastest bake, hardest execution of any style that we're having. Basically no margin for error. Can I get this one?
That was for you, yes.
You okay?
I don't know. First of all, the texture of the dough is absurd.
The thinnest crisp on the exterior that relents to this soft cloud interior.
Texturally, this is like really bar none. This is bringing me back to my first time I ever had Neapolitan pizza was at Da Michele. And I had never had it before, I knew nothing about it. I just walked in. Somehow there was no line that day. And I took a bite of the pizza. I don't know what it was, but it literally brought a tear to my eye. That life-altering experience immediately sucked me back into that moment when I ate this. Just ridiculously earth-shattering, thin crispiness. And the inside is like webby and luscious and puffy and aerated, but like also super moist. That's a 9.5 texture for me. Flavor, what's in their sauce?
Tomato and salt.
How is this outshining things where they have garlic and salt and pepper and oregano and sugar? This is special.
Now, the moment of truth. It all comes down to this final score. This pizza is so simple, I almost don't even know that it has the capability to take itself over the edge to crown this pizza as our winner, but we'll find out.
I think a 9.4 flavor. just letting good be good. This is probably the best single-handed execution of it I think I've ever had in my life.
And there you have it. After 15 of the most iconic pizza styles in the world, the Neapolitan at Una Pizza Napolitana reigns supreme. The best style of pizza in the world. Italy takes 2 of the top 3 spots, but let's be real. Every pizza here owes its existence, honestly, to Italy.
We went all the way around the world. We went to Italy, we went to America, we went to Italian America, then we went to Argentina, and we've come back to Italy, ultimately for a real big dub for the Italians, the originators, the creators. It came back home. Thanks to Una. Subscribe. Bye.